In this video, we're going to talk about the 3.2 free response question. So 33, given two functions. One is the f of x equal to a log function. That is the natural log. And one is the function of g equal to x squared minus 9. So composition, we mentioned about the inside out, right? So always starting from the right inside out. So I need you to activate your eagle eye. Always start from the inside out. So f, the function, leave me alone. But what is the g? The g is the entire thing, as you can see, x squared minus 9. So now inside out. So now you can go out to the f function style. What is the style of my f function? It will be a natural log of a x. We mentioned about whenever you see the x, put the bucket. Now what is inside my bucket? Plug it in. So inside my bucket is x squared minus 9. So that tells me my composition of the h function, that is equal to natural log of x squared minus 9. And this is a good review of the function operation, function composition we talked about last year, right? All right, moving on. State the domain. So what you see is what you got. Domain, it's all about the x values. And the range, it's my y values. Now, I want to emphasize the good thing about the x value. So what you see is what you got. We know something. This function of the h, it's a natural log function. So you already know that the natural log has a picture looks like that. Had to go through what 1, 0, right? So what will be my domain? Domain, it's all about the x value. When you take a look at the picture, you know that my x value only happen is be bigger than 0. Okay, so therefore that tells you my domain all about the x value. What you see, the domain will be everything about the x value. So the x squared minus 9 had to be bigger than 0. Therefore, we can solve it. So what's that going to do? You can say, oh, I remember now. If I move my 9 to the other side, I get x squared greater than 9. So my next step, I'm going to both sides take the square root. Now remember, when we take the square root, we have two answers. One is negative and one is what? Positive, right? When you take the square root, you have a two answer because negative 3 times negative 3 is 9. Positive 3 times positive 3 is 9. So I always have two answers. And then we mentioned about that. It's always less than the negative number and bigger than the positive number. So this is what we mentioned about the domain. Now, when you check the answer key in classroom, I said that we got to be a little bit fancy. So when you take a look at the number line, I have a negative 3 and I have 3. This is my critical numbers, right? So you know that it's less than the negative number and bigger than the positive number. So what do you see as your interval? You will see that, oh, so that tells me my interval, it is any number from negative to negative 3, not equal to negative 3. Together with any number is bigger than 3, positive. So this is what we mentioned about be professional. I got this domain as my answer, as an interval. So far so good. Now let's talk about the range. When we talk about the range, we're talking about is the y value. So when there is a picture, the answer is in the picture. What you see is what you got. You see your picture can what? Go both directions. So the range will be from negative infinity to positive infinity. Do not overthink. Believe in yourself, okay? All right, moving on. Describe the symmetric. I don't know if you still remember about the symmetric, talking about the odd and even number. So any even number, that will be a symmetric. So this is why we get to check in with the negative x to see. If we got exactly the same thing as the original, therefore it will be a even number, right? Even function, right? So that will be the symmetric. If we get exactly the opposite, that will become the odd function. So very good. When you plug in the function, we come up with location. X squared, that still be a positive number. So therefore, nothing changed. So therefore, you got exactly the same thing. So therefore, that will be the symmetric. So far so good? And that will be something we call the even function as well. All right. Now let's go to the part D. Find all values of x such that the h function equal to 0. In class time, I mentioned about just solve for x. Now you may say that, so how many answers should I get? Because when I see the values, you kind of like, there are more answers, right? 2 answers, right? So let's go. So remember, given this h of x is equal to 0, we already know that from the part A. I figured out the h is equal to natural log of x squared minus 9. So step 1, I'm going to make this happen. Natural log of x squared minus 9. That is equal to 0 by the given. Can we say that? Ms. O said that all about the base. Base the same, cancel out. Now activate your eagle eye. Natural log, what is my base? E. So I'm going to make everybody have a base E. I just added to it. So we said base the same, cancel out. So the base E and the natural log base E is going to cancel out. What you left? You got x squared minus 9. It's equal to e to the 0. Oh, any non-zero number to the 0 power, this gives me a perfect answer. It is 1. So that tells me x squared minus 9 is equal to 1, which tells me x squared is equal to 10. Now remember, we said when you solve the x value, you're going to do the opposite. Square, what will be my opposite? Both sides take the square root. Remember, the square root, when you take that, you always have 2 answers, right? One is positive, one is negative. So that tells me x is equal to positive negative square root 10. And yes, no need calculator. This is perfect. This is exact value. That is perfect. Good. Moving on. E. Part E. Write the formula of the inverse function. I hope you still remember the -1 indicate is the inverse function for all x greater than 3. So let's see, what can we do? A little bit review. How do we find the inverse function? 5 steps, right? So step 1, we start with our original h function, which will be the what? Natural log of x squared minus 9. So this is it. Step 1, I'm going to show you my y. So this guy, I'm going to make it become y equal to natural log of x squared minus 9. Good. Step 2, I'm going to switch my x and y. So therefore, whenever you see the y, I'm going to replace that with x. And whenever I see the x, I'm going to replace that with the y. Good. Now, isolate all the y term on one side. Now you see that, oh, my y is trapped in the parentheses. I cannot do anything yet. Okay, then we're going to do something. What do we notice about that? All about the base. When you see the natural log, what is my base? E. So I'm going to make everybody have the same base. Why? Because base the same, what happened? Cancel out. So now you see base e to the power, natural log of the e also have the same base. They cancel out. So I got e to the x power, it's equal to y squared minus. So now I want to isolate the y by itself, so anything need to go away. Minus 9 opposite will be plus 9. So when you see such thing, just follow along doing the opposite. So what you see is e to the x power plus 9 should equal to y squared. Almost there. I want y. I don't want anything else, okay? So this is tells me I got to do the opposite again. What do we do the opposite? You're going to take the square root on both sides. take the square root on both sides. So when you take the square root, you just isolate that. So y is equal to e to the x power plus 9. Now here comes a good tip. Ms. Ho, you said that I always have two answers. Now, why you just give me one? Well, because we have a domain given x plus 3, x greater than 3. That guarantee x from the very beginning, the x greater than 3 will be a positive, right? So therefore, my answer will be these. Positive. Now, one more step will be the step 5 because I'm looking for the inverse function. So what should we do? I'm going to make this y become the -1 indicate. It will be an inverse function. And I'm just going to write it out. So the inverse function will be, okay, why did I forget the square root? So now I have the square root here. Ooh la la, perfect. Nicely done. Okay, I hope you remember those things, including the foundation of the function, how do we solve a function, how do we find the inverse of function and have fun. And that's